The book, or I should say audiobook, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. New York Times bestseller. If you don't know who David Goggins is, come on, what are you doing? Wow, what an inspirational guy. It's funny, when I first listened to it, I was like, yeah, that's pretty. I think I was into weightlifting, bodybuilding at the time, and I was like, I'd never start running. Running's what the fuck? That's stupid. Now I'm doing ultra marathons. Well, I've done one ultra marathon. I've got another one booked in. Um, as you can see, my little 123 kilometers. Not bad, not bad. We're going to do 320 next. But I just want to share with you a little review of Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It's sorely disappointed. It's disappointing that David Goggins doesn't read the entire audiobook. That kind of sucks. But if I do say, like, if you're going to get the book, get the audio book, because you get an extra, like a mini podcast in between each chapter with the ghostwriter. I think his name's Adam, the ghostwriter. Not Ghost Rider with the flaming skull, but Ghost Writer, like Ghost Author, who helped David organize his ideas into a beautiful story. So really, it's a tale of all of the pain and suffering that Goggins went through, and this incredible transformation of pain that created the diamond that is David Goggins. Now, a lot of the things in the book are just utterly stupid, like really unwise things to do. But I think things that you can take from the book is like, okay, his thing was being a Navy SEAL. His thing was doing ultra marathons. Okay, what's my thing? I think that is probably the biggest takeaway for you if you're going to read this book, or if you're just going to listen to this, which is fine. It's like, hey, yeah, it's cool to endure the pain and face the suffering and just fucking get up and fucking do it, man. Just fucking stay hard. You fucking stop being a little fucking pussy. And it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, let me translate that into my own values and my own goals. So at the moment, it's like I'm doing a lot of research. I'm doing a lot of dog training. I'm doing a lot of speaking. I'm doing a lot of business stuff. So it's like, okay, how can I apply that David Goggins mentality to all of those goals? So it's like, okay, I love dog training. So it's like, stop being a little pussy. Don't take days off with my dog training. I think if you don't have an extremely high value on your health and on your body, it can be extremely dangerous to take any of David's advice. Like, don't get me wrong, you're still going to be empowered from it, but I think it can cause some burnout and some emotional distress. And I would prefer to do it in a way where it is aligned with who I am, rather than me trying to be David Goggins. It's like David Goggins is just being him, and he's sharing stories about, being beaten, and his mum being beaten. That was probably even worse. His training all through the city. He had to do like 3 hell weeks. Like, what the fuck? Who's gonna carry the boats? Who's gonna carry the boats? One of my runs, I started saying that out loud. Who's gonna carry the boats? Who's gonna carry? You gotta listen to the listen to the book to understand that. But yeah, get the audio book where they're talking in between all of the chapters, and you get a bit more of an insight into David Goggins' mind. And yeah, don't let David project his value of physical challenge. He loves physically challenging himself. That's what he loves. That's what lights him up. Don't let that project onto you, because he is completely different. He's not better than you. He's not like superhuman. He's just a guy who's found what he absolutely fucking loves, what he loves. He's found what he loves. So find what you love and then apply that David Goggins like fucking go hard mentality to that. And then let your other goals super task into that one big goal. And what else can I say about David Goggins? Then what a fucking machine. I mean, if you haven't, let me tell you this story. So he is like super overweight. He's not super overweight. He's like big and muscly. He's a bit overweight. And he hasn't done any cardio for a whole year. He's fat and he's kind of lazy. And he's like, okay, I want to get back into it. There's this Navy SEAL memorial thing happening and I want to be able to do something to support it. So I'm going to do a run. Okay. I want to do 100-mile. I'm going to do, no, he Googled what's the hardest race? Badwater 135. So he's like, okay, I'm going to do this Badwater 135, 135 miles in like super, super hot. So he calls up the race director at Chris Costner, I think, and says, hey, can I do the race? And they go, no, you're going to need to qualify for it. Okay, what do I need to do to qualify? You have to run 100 miles. Okay, it's in 4 weeks, so I got to do a 100-mile race to qualify and then do the 135. He's like, yep, okay. When's the next race? Next week. It's a 24-hour race. You can do 100 miles. Okay, cool. He packs his bags. All he brings to a 24-hour race, which is around a single circuit, all he brings is a packet of fucking biscuits, like dry cracker succotar things, and fucking a bottle of water and a lawn chair. This dude's got no. And the night before, he did a heavy fucking weights workout. So he's already sore and in so much pain from the workout that he did the night before. He hasn't done any sort of cardio in the last year, and now he's going to run 100 miles in 24 hours. Anyway, so he starts running. At mile 60, his body starts breaking down. He starts pissing blood. He starts shitting all down the back of himself. So he's sitting in this lawn chair, covered in piss, covered in shit, eating these dry crackers, drinking water. He's got no idea. And something just switched on him. And that rule where he was like, fuck, if you think you're done, you're only 40% done. Right? So he got up and he just started running again. He was like he was possessed. And then he pushed through and he got to the 100 miles and then he just absolutely collapsed. And his girlfriend, luckily, was a nurse at the time, took him in the bathtub, and she was on the phone to the hospital, and the hospital's like, he needs to come see it, like he needs to go now, like what are you doing? And so the girlfriend's like, hey David, we got to go, and he's just sitting in the bathtub, piss and shit and blood and everything, and she says, hey, let's go to the hospital. He goes, yeah, I'll go to the hospital, but I just want to soak this in. I just want to soak this in, this achievement, like what I've done. I just want to soak it up. And then he went to the hospital, and then he calls up the race director and says, yep, I've run 100 miles. I did 100 miles in 19 hours, 20 hours, something. And the race director says, the point of a 24-hour race is to run for 24 hours. You only ran 19 hours. So then he had to find out another way to get into the race. He ended up running the Badwater 135. But that's just one example of the crazy, crazy stories of like his sheer determination. And the book brings you back to the start of his life where they live on Paradise Road, Paradise Lane. And it was the opposite. It was hell, where his dad was just this fucking tyrannical nightmare who's just beating on them, forcing them to work. David couldn't concentrate at school. All these issues started coming up, and it's like it really puts into perspective how our childhood and our environment really shapes who we are. And he got to a point where he was overweight and spraying cockroaches, and he was fucking hating his life. So he was like, right, enough is fucking enough. He set a goal to run a mile. He couldn't even run down the fucking road. But instead of giving up, he was like, fuck, let me readjust my goal. Because what happens if you're super depressed and you're stressed, you're not conscious of your authentic self and your authentic goals. So you set too big a goal in too short a time frame, or too small a goal into shorter time frame, into longer time frame. Sorry. So you're not getting your goals right. So if you're fat and overweight and spraying cockroaches and depressed, and you're like, I'm going to run a mile, you have no conception of what a mile really is. So you're going to fuck up. So I think that what I get from the story is like, don't expect the goal that you set to go perfectly. It's like, set the goal, go for it, then reflect, then go back to the drawing board, and then just keep going. Just don't fucking stop. And that's what I also get. He got me into ultra running. It's like, hey, if you got to crawl, fucking crawl. If you can walk, walk. If you can run, then run. Just keep going. Like there's just don't stop. So it's like, if you can find what you really love, Dave Goggins, he loves challenging himself physically, which gives him that mental challenge as well. If you, whatever it is, if you love kids, if you love health, if you love finance, if you love business, if you love spiritual quest, if you love mental quest, whatever it is, just find it and just go fucking hard at it. Set the goal, fuck it up, keep going. And it's like, that's that dog with a bone mentality that you get from David Goggins. So what a fucking awesome guy. I'm going to be running an ultra marathon with him one day. And thank you for listening. Hey, David, subscribe.